Hi, I'm Carrie.
I'm Jake.
And this is Love You Like Crazy. This is a podcast where we talk and rant about young adult books. Okay, so what's going on?
Well, I may have read a book.
Yeah, I did too. That's about all I can say about it, really.
Okay, short episode. What are we talking about next time?
I don't know. We read 17th Summer by Maureen Daly.
Yeah, it's possibly the first young adult novel published in 1942 by someone who was actually 17 years old when she started writing it and was still in college when she finished it. So we're going to go through a bunch of spoilers, which is a little tricky because nothing really happens in the book. But if you are concerned about that, then read the book first. And so that's the book we're doing right now. And then in the next episode, we're going to read a book called Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor, which was published in 2011 and recommended by a listener. But I feel like we have a lot to say about this book, so let's just get to it.
Absolutely.
I had this idea I think is a bad idea that we shouldn't do, but
but let's do it anyway.
It was a game show I thought up called Are They Banging?
The answer is yes, except for Angie and Jack, because she barely kisses him on the friggin' cheek. Like, how chaste can you people be? I mean, maybe she's, dialing it down for us, but I don't think she does a whole lot of anything. But yes, everybody else, banging. Her sister and that guy,
Martin.
Wicked banging.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to get pregnant at one point, but whatever.
I'm sure that they were practicing
40s safe sex.
outer course.
I believe they call that heavy petting.
Yes, I think you're right about that.
Or is it just, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, okay, let's get into this. This is good.
What exactly is necking?
Yes. So this is what I think. So when I was in high school, we did not talk about necking.
Because you weren't in the 40s.
Right. But I feel like, there's sort of the baseball metaphor in popular culture of getting to first base, second base, third base, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like these are terms that are come up with people who don't know what they're talking about and have never actually experienced any of it most of the time. And so they really only themselves have a vague idea of what exactly any of it means. And it probably is different even within the same school from person to person what any of it means.
Mm.
So here are the equivalents I would do. See, what do you think about this?
Okay.
I'm going to say necking, first base, petting, second base, heavy petting, third base.
I mean, it depends. I would say now that's probably the case. In 1942, I might put necking at second base. And these chaste Angie and Jack kisses at first base.
Okay.
That's my guess. I think it's more of a hardcore makeout sesh than whatever the fuck Jack and Angie were doing, which was let's look at the moon and talk about life. But she doesn't talk, so that's fun.
And then when they start to get horny, Angie's like, let's
go home.
Let's leave.
I want to talk about how fucking boring this book was and how I just didn't understand Angie at all. I didn't understand how this guy fell in love with her at all because she never talked about anything.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand what the fuck is going on here.
So let me make my own disclaimer. I feel like this book is 320 pages long. And this is a book where the question, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound, is discussed for about a page and a half.
It's true. It is.
And the idea is that it doesn't, and it kind of blows Angie's mind. I felt like it could have been shorter.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't have complained. But I do want to kind of make a disclaimer. I did, in the main, I thought that it was well written in terms of, I thought the descriptions were good. I thought that there were some kind of subtle things going on. I don't regret reading it, although it sounds like
You know what? I don't regret it either. I will say that.
With that said, I'm not necessarily going to recommend other people read it unless...
No, I was telling my book club about this, and they're like, "Oh, the first YA book." I'm like, "We're not doing it." Nope. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm not reading this twice. Yeah, I actually have the hardcover copy that I got from the library. That's probably a 1960s edition, and it's only 255 pages.
Oh, all right.
So I don't know what you got that's different, but
I got looking it up on Goodreads and seeing what the page count was there.
Oh,
so
yeah, mine is the 40th printing, and it's 1963.
Anyway, so what my disclaimer is, like, that I did kind of like the book, but I feel like when we're talking about it, most of what I'm going to say is either going to be snark or backhanded compliments. So
mine's all going to be snark. So
yeah, why else are people tuning in? But just keep that in mind as you listen.
I mean, but the thing is, we don't always do snark. Sometimes we read, The Golden Compass.
No, sometimes we're sincere. It's true. Sometimes we really like a book a lot. This is not one of those times.
But for what it is, it wasn't bad. I mean, if we have to go like, okay, this is the first YA book. This was written in 1942. We are completely like 2 generations beyond this.
Yeah.
For what it is, it's not terrible. And she's not a bad writer.
So, like, the second time I read it, sort of the way that I kind of thought my way through it to enjoy it more than the first time, I think, is that I felt like this is a book where, like, the action is kind of... This is super pretentious, what I'm about to say, so I apologize for that. But it's like the action is kind of interior. Like, it's all in Angie's head. It's all about her emotions and feelings. So, like, if you read the book expecting, like, things to happen and have consequences, you're not really going to get that from this book. But, in terms of, like, capturing a sort of a kind of introverted, not particularly popular high schoolers, first time falling in love, although she never says that she's in love with him.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't even say that she really likes him. She wants him to like her, but she doesn't really... I'm not sure if she's a sociopath or what her deal is, but she does not have emotions.
I think she's just a teenager.
I don't know. I mean, teenagers have all emotions all the time. She cares about nobody.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I felt like, she describes the first date in kind of this minute detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through this sort of romantic haze. So I think what that's supposed to kind of get across is that, like, she really does. This was really an important thing in her life, and it's something that she really does remember in that kind of detail.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she remembers it in great detail if she goes back and writes, a book about it. She's narrating to us, saying, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. That's literally the first line in the book. So
yeah,
it's her looking back and telling us the story of her first relationship with a gentleman caller.
She says, this is important. You see, it was different. It wasn't just because it was Jack and I either. It was something much more than that. It wasn't as it's written of in magazine stories or in morning radio serials, where the boy's family always tease him about liking a girl and he gets embarrassed and stutters. And it wasn't silly, like sometimes when girls sit in school and write a fellow's name all over the margin of their papers. So let me read to you from Wikipedia, because that's what everyone tunes into this podcast for. So she wrote this book when she started writing the book when she was 17, and she finished it while she was in college. And incidentally, when I told our mutual friend Christy Redacted about this book, and I was sort of talking about, like, this is like a thing where, this is a book where, like, there isn't so much action as it's like emotional, the plot is in the emotions and whatnot. And Christy's like laughed and said, like, that is every pretentious person's description of the novel they were writing when I was in college. And I was like, well, she was,
Yep.
that's where she was. That's what she was doing. It says, it says in Wikipedia, everyone's favorite source, she was encouraged to write by her high school English teacher. At age 15, she wrote a short story and entered in a competition sponsored by Scholastic, and the story placed third. What do you think the name of the story was?
15?
Yeah, 15.
Oh, okay.
The following year, when Daly was 16, she won first prize in the same Scholastic competition with her story about a girl who meets a boy at a skating rink. And what do you think the name of this story was?
16?
Correct. This story is actually online. I found it on some random person's tripod website.
Ooh.
So if you would like to read this story in Comic Sans, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Even better.
And I think that if you're intrigued by this novel, that's a good place to start because it's recognizably by the same person. It's kind of on similar themes, although it has a twist ending.
What?
So
that's not even a twist ending. That's just a 16-year-old ending.
Yeah. Well,
man, 16-year-olds have not changed ever, have they?
No, they haven't. Like, that was something that I thought was interesting about this book too.
And you know what? Full of M dashes.
Oh yeah.
Full of them. I mean, I love the M dash. I use the M dash very often in every kind of medium. Emails, I use them. Text messages, they're everywhere. I use the M dash. I love the M dash. But this was too many M dashes for me. Like, too many. There are other punctuation you can use, Maureen Daly. Learn how to write, for Christ's sake. Get an editor. I'm pretty sure her first name is actually M dash.
The M in M dash stands for Maureen.
Yes.
So it's it's similar to the book, but about 1% as long. So check that out, and if you enjoy it, read the book. Oh, that's the other thing about 17th Summer is Maureen Daly is the third of 4 daughters herself.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she said at some point that the protagonist is based on her.
No shit.
Except nobody
loved her.
Well, no, just that the protagonist is at least presents herself as being so innocent, but then the book is also, there's all this stuff going on in the edges that.
Well, everybody's drinking and smoking, and she's the good girl, having a Coke at the bar. But I mean, nobody else is.
So I went to see a comedian this week, Hari Kondabolu, and he had recently given a class on stand-up comedy in a prison in Portland, Oregon. And one of the inmates there told him a joke that he thought was very funny, and this was the joke.
Apparently, Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. And what I realized recently is that you could still put cocaine in it.
Solid joke. Anyway.
And he's not wrong.
He's not. Oh, but then, and she said that the other sisters were based on her real life sisters, which I don't know how I'd feel about if I were her older sister, but not her oldest sister.
Yeah, her older sister was not portrayed kindly.
No.
She was basically portrayed as ugly and weird and needy. Like, none of it was kind. I mean, her older sister was, a lovely girl. She's in a committed relationship. They're going to get married. They're fine. A little boring, but okay. But her older sister, but not her oldest, was just like awful.
Right. She was like conceited and.
But also, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with her, but the way she was written was harsh.
Yeah, I think
that would have strained a family relationship is all I'm saying.
I agree. Yeah, but that's kind of what you mentioned that you thought maybe she was going to get pregnant.
I sort of assumed. I thought, when they were at the Rathskeller and she runs into her older sister, and the older sister's like, I like to hang out with him. I like to go out. I like to go out every night. I thought she was going to say, and I'm knocked up.
Yeah.
And then they would have to deal with how do we deal with this in 1942 with them not being married and him kind of being he is a douchebag.
He is.
He's like king douche.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, whatever. I mean, you fuck. That's cool. But I was assuming that was going to happen. And when it didn't, I was a little disappointed. It's like, God damn it.
Right. That's a situation where I would, especially in the first read, I kept expecting, something to happen in the book.
Yeah. I mean,
I think I sent you an email after I read the first quarter of it where I was like, I don't know. I think that this Swede guy is going to be trouble.
And nothing. And he was like, okay. He was an okay guy. He didn't push anyone off his boat or anything.
I mean, he was dating a 15-year-old.
Well.
And then at one point, so towards the end of the book, there's a point where Angie's mother gets sick.
Angie's mother gets sick a lot, doesn't she?
Yeah, but she's down for the count.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are they going to pull an Anne of Green Gables and just kill this woman off just to cause drama? And it kind of pissed me off, but no, actually, that's not what happened. She was fine.
I thought she was pregnant too.
Oh, yeah. See?
I just thought everyone in this book was going to get pregnant. When they went to, we went to the carnival,
mm-hmm.
and what was her name? The friend.
Let's see.
Shit.
I have Margie.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody had a fucking M name. Yeah, when Margie pulled her aside and wanted to talk to her, I thought she was going to say she was pregnant. I was literally waiting for someone in this book to get knocked up, and nobody did.
No one did.
So I think our next book just has to be all pregnancy all the time. Everyone's got to get pregnant. Dudes, chicks, everybody, because I'm missing out in 17th Summer. I was really expecting it, and everybody let me down.
Okay, so we're going to read the Stephanie Meyer's book?
Pretty much.
All right.
Can you tell me what's going on?
I'm late. My period's late.
Oh, no, we're not. I love myself too much, and I love you way too much to make either of us read a Stephanie Meyer's book.
I love you like crazy.
I want to talk about, basically, I want to talk about Angie.
Yes.
So she's the protagonist. She's, the person telling us the story of her first love. I don't think she actually has feelings. I'm going to make that very clear. And she is the whitest white bread that's ever come out of Wisconsin, ever. She's boring. I don't know. There's just something about her. And she also thinks she's better than everybody else. And she's not. She's like, oh, those people, they smoke cigarettes. They drink. I have a Coke. I don't do anything bad. And I'm just like, why not? You're boring. Please do something. I don't want to read a book about you just being an upstanding moral citizen. I want to read a book about you, being a messy human, because being human is messy. But instead it's basically I am chaste. I am perfect. I, go with my gentleman caller and we talk about life and we look at the moon and all these other people are necking in the back of a car. Oh, those awful people. And I was like, girl, you're not making me like you. And I want to like you because I want to like this book.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like you. And I don't really like Jack because he's boring too. He falls in love with this girl, but he doesn't really talk to her. I mean, they talk about all the dates that they go on, but the dates are just so we went for a drive and we kissed and he put his hand on my hand and then we went home. We went to this party and everyone else was drinking and I was a little uncomfortable and then we went home. But then I went on a date with this other guy who's a fast boy.
Yes.
But then I went home. And everybody suddenly thought I was that kind of girl, which I'm not. I would never be that kind of girl. I'm like, oh, God, shut up. You don't have to spend the whole book telling me how much better you are than everybody else because you're going to college while your boyfriend's going to be a baker. Going to make more money than you.
Yeah, it's... So, I mean, I was kind of thinking about another book that we read, When You Reach Me.
I love that book.
Yeah, that book is great. And short. And things happen in it. But
so many things happen.
So when I read that book, you know, and you can listen to the episode if you want to, there's like for the first point in the book, like, I would say the protagonist of that book, Miranda, is like very much in her head and kind of an observer of things that go on around her and doesn't take a lot of positive action. And I don't know if she takes it to the extent that Angie does, but I feel like she's not super communicative either.
No, she's not, but
then a certain point arrives where she's like, wait a minute.
I'm being a dick.
Hans, are we the baddies?
I can actually do things. When I notice that someone is having problems, I can try to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that makes that book incredibly satisfying is that, you know, we have this character development. And I agree that this book, like, they're not really very different people from the end at the beginning.
No, she's the same person the day after graduation that she is the day she gets on the train to go to college.
And there is like one thing that I noticed that where I felt like they had something like a real conversation, and then it actually later influenced or was sort of called back to at the end, which is like they have this conversation about how Jack talks about how he actually kind of hates working at the bakery and he doesn't want to do that sort of long term.
Yeah.
And then he talks about how he likes doing things that are sort of physical and that make him feel strong and hard. And she's like, yeah, I totally get it. You know, like beating rugs out the window and stuff. Like, it gives me a feeling also that I don't get whatever. So then at the end of the book, she's about to go to college, and it turns out his family is moving back to Oklahoma, like a long distance away, and possibly they will never see each other again. And so the last thing they do in their last night together is they go out to the garden and pick tomatoes, and then they go to the lake and bail out his boat. And I felt like those two things sort of connected in a way that other things don't necessarily connect up in the book that way. So those are the connections that I make when I read a book twice in which basically nothing happens. I forget why I brought that up, but
I don't know, but I like it. I think that's a really good observation that I did not make. So I appreciate the fact that you read the book twice, because I did not.
Which one of us is the winner here? I think the listener at home can judge for themselves. Yeah, but like, because there are a bunch of points. Like Margie is like, I kind of don't like my boyfriend, Fitz.
Yeah.
Who Angie, when he first met him, basically is like, he had a bad complexion and a shiftiness about him.
Well, yeah.
So Margie like talks about how she doesn't like Fitz anymore, and then she's like, I don't know, do you like Fitz? And Angie is non-committal, you know, and then Margie's like, well, just don't tell anyone about this. And Angie's like, no problem. And, you know, like, this is a situation where you can like talk to your friend and commiserate and like, oh yeah, you know, remember when I went out with that dude or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Like, probably in that situation, you don't want to say, yeah, he's got all these zits and he seems like kind of a shifty dude. But nonetheless, you know, you can do something about that situation. You know, and other things. And like, I want to return to Dolly because I thought that was real creepy. Dolly, the 15-year-old who is recruited by the Checkers.
The Checkers, yeah. The Checkers are the guys who stand outside the drugstore and like basically watch the girls and report back to the older gentlemen.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
And Dolly, like, they go to pick her up sort of late in the book, and she literally lives across the railroad track in this like house that's falling down. And, you know, we first meet her at this party where she's, you know, drinking beer, and some guy like pushes her over and everyone thinks it's hilarious. And it totally freaked me out because I read that part of the book the same day as the Kavanaugh hearing. Yeah. So like that whole party where everyone just, you know, there's music and everyone kind of pairs up and goes out on the lawn or upstairs or onto the porch chair. I don't know, like
it felt gross.
It felt gross and sinister. And the fact that Dolly's 15 years old and hanging out with a bunch of 18-year-old boys who are all drunk and, you know, and then it turns out she lives in like across the railroad tracks and her family is poor and stuff. And it sort of reminded me in a weird way of that song In the Summertime by Mongo Jerry. Do you know that one? It's like, in the summertime when the something
Yeah, I know that song.
Yeah.
Yep, I do.
It sounds like a fun song, and then like the second verse is like,
if a daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If a daddy's poor, just do what you feel.
Mongo Jerry, what are you doing?
That's not okay.
This song has a sinister message, much like the rest of popular culture. Yeah, so that freaked me out. I don't know where to go from that.
I don't know either.
Yeah. Really, really taking us into a dark place in this thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about Lorraine.
Let's talk about Lorraine. Poor Lorraine.
I was just flipping through the book and I was like, oh. So at one point, Angie invites Jack over for dinner. And she doesn't invite him so much as tell him he is going to her house for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And her sister, Lorraine, was a total asshole.
That is true.
She was a total fucking asshole. I mean, this kid just graduated high school. So she's talking to him and she's like being all, you know, hoity-toity college girl with him. You know, oh, you've read that book, haven't you? And he's like, no, I'm in high school. She's like, oh, but what about this book? I've read this book. Obviously, you've read that. Oh, and these short stories. Can you believe this guy writes these short stories in only 3 hours? Imagine. He's like, dude, I don't know. I just graduated high school and I played basketball. I don't know. And she was like a condescending wench. And so, again, if this is based on her real sister, holidays were difficult.
Yes, I imagine so. And then, so a thing about that is like, it's sort of, so Jack is like super awkward and he's kind of being grilled by the family, or at least this is Angie's perception of it. And he is like nervous and uncomfortable and he starts eating his food too fast because he's afraid that
someone will talk to him if his mouth isn't full.
Yeah. And then they serve the ice cream. Oh my God.
If only they'd mentioned it in basic training. Instead of climbing up and down ropes and crawling on your elbows through tunnels, if only just once they'd said gazpacho soup is served cold, I could have been an admiral by now.
And he clicks his spoon against his teeth twice. Ooh. And Angie is like mortified.
Yeah, she decides at that moment she hates him.
My family hates him. I hate him. They all think that he's a loser. Maybe he is. And this is something that is not really followed up at all. Like, it seems like her family actually likes Jack fine.
Yeah, I think her mother, who doesn't like anybody, really likes him.
Yeah. But I feel like that sort of, the thing that sort of captured to me was like when you have a thing or something, in this case, a person that you really like, and then you kind of introduce it to someone else and then suddenly view it through their eyes and realize, oh, wait, maybe they won't like this at all.
That's basically the story of my life.
It's the story of everyone's life, maybe.
Yeah, probably. And then her her gentleman caller, who was not a gentleman caller at all.
He's he's a business major.
And then you drop the mic. That's it. Boom, business major.
Or I guess they said business lawyer, which I don't know, except he actually is an insurance salesman. So I don't know how all these pieces fit together.
And he does, I mean, if he's a business major, insurance salesman, lawyer, but he lives in a boarding house.
Yeah.
Like, something's not true.
He keeps going out to eat, so maybe that's where all the money goes. That's what Angie's mother is like. I'm sure that he would appreciate a home-cooked meal. Invite him over for some potato salad.
Can't wait to go over to my fuck buddy's house for some potato salad.
It's everyone's idea of a good time. But
now all I can think about is like this warm potato salad that's been sitting out in the June heat all day, just waiting for this fucking chode to come by and eat it.
Anyway, so at one point in the book, they're at the Rathskeller, which is the thing we should talk about in greater depth. And Lorraine and Martin, no, is it Martin? Marty?
Yeah, Marty, Martin, whatever.
They come in, and so they see that Angie and Jack are already there. They weren't expecting to see them there, and then like they go over to join them, even though Lorraine is like, let's sit someplace else, or let's just leave. And Marty is talking about, is trying to be friendly, and it's like...
No, Marty was straight up trying to hit on Angie in front of her sister and Jack. Yeah, so I mean, like, he is a fucking scumbag in so many ways, but continue. Friendly my ass. He was not trying to be friendly.
So one of the ways that he tries to flirt with her, I guess, is to say how, like, hey, when I moved here at first, I thought this place was really lame, but now that I've gotten used to it, it's all right. And he says, I met an old fraternity brother of mine the other day in Waupun, and I said to him, if I had a wife and 6 kids and nowhere else to go, there is no one I would rather live than Fond du Lac.
Oh, snap.
It's just like, what a goddamn asshole. Like, and hilarious, but not for the reason that Martin thinks it's hilarious. Martin guffawed loudly, but Jack didn't laugh at him, and neither did I. Talking about your hometown is like talking about your own mother.
And so what were they doing at the Rathskeller besides drinking? They were there to see some live music.
Always appreciate patrons of the musical arts. They were there to see a... how
do we put it nicer than they did?
Right. I guess saying black instead of colored is the way to go in this situation. It's
in this situation, I think so, yeah.
A jazz pianist.
But he played in Chicago once, so what?
At a club that's since burned down. Jack convinces her to have 2 beers.
Did she drink the whole beers? I thought she just sort of like sipped it and kept putting it in front of his plate.
So she said that she put the beer closer to him, but then she also talked about how she was sipping on it for a while, and then he ordered another one for her. And I think, I think he thought it would be fun to get her drunk. And then I think he decided that he was really wrong about that.
Because there's nothing fun about her.
She just got kind of loud and commented on the piano player's painted nails, and then got really tired.
So basically sounds like every girl when they get drunk. Okay, just me. 2 beers and I'm talking loud and commenting on everybody's nail polish too. So
yeah. Well,
my other question is about the mom.
Yeah.
So we touched on her, getting sick earlier, but basically every time she's mentioned in the book, there's something a little off about her. Like, I think if this were written today, the mother would have clinical depression. There's something where she just doesn't seem happy or content. And that part of that is probably being a housewife in 1942 and friggin' Fond du Lac. But there's just something off about her. And I kept trying to figure out again, maybe I'm just looking for dark in this book because this book is so fluff. So I kept waiting to be like, what's going on with the mom?
I mean, I noticed that she was often, I feel like she says that she's tired or whatever. She
takes a lot of naps.
I hadn't really thought of it in terms of depression, but I feel like that would make a lot of sense.
I mean, the kids all sort of know, like, oh, mom, we got to tiptoe around mom today. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's normal. I don't know. I was an only child. My mom was fairly young when she had me, so we had a very different dynamic than maybe most families did, but there was not a lot of like tiptoeing around mom because mom's having a day or mom takes a lot of naps. And so I was like, why does this woman take so many naps? Oh.
Yeah. No, I mean that.
So finally we found some darkness in this book.
I realized that we didn't talk about the one character in the book that I really liked a lot.
Okay, and that was
Kitty.
Kitty was great. Kitty gives no fucks.
She does not. And no one pays any attention to her, as far as I can tell, including her parents.
Jack does, though. Jack's like, oh, if your dad doesn't want to take you to see the pony, I'm going to totally fucking take you to see the pony.
Oh, yeah. That was one reason. That was one area where Angie pissed me off is when they went to the beach or they went go swimming.
And her little sister really, really wanted to go. You could tell how much she wanted to go. And Jack even said, maybe we should have picked up your sister and taken her. And she's like, nope. I'm an asshole. I don't think about anyone but myself.
Yeah. She says, I'll explain it to her when she's 16.
She'll understand. No, she won't. She will hate you forever.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention about Kitty is at one point she's like, have you ever wondered where butterflies go when it rains? And she's like, I bet they go under leaves. And I looked it up on the internet and that's what they do. Kitty's totally right. That kid is great.
Kitty is also, she's a little weird and I like that about her. So after they all go for this picnic drive
From
that
hell.
ends up back in their backyard, she picks all the dead butterflies off the front of the car and like picks them apart.
Yeah.
I was like, Kitty, you're such a dick. I love that.
She's a scientist.
She's a scientist. And she is going to be the one in the family that like goes off and does great things where everyone else is just going to like be nothing.
Yeah.
Because the older sister, she's going to have, 4 or 5 kids. She's going to stay in Fond du Lac forever. Her older sister is going to, I don't know what she's going to do. I'm afraid for her. But Kitty's going to, she's going to win a Nobel Prize in butterflyology.
In real life, all 4 of the sisters became journalists, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's kind of lame. I wanted the younger one to like do something cool. I mean, journalism is cool. Sarah Peach, I love you. You're fantastic. You're a great journalist. You're the only one. No, everybody's awesome. Can you again edit me out to sound smart? Just edit all. So just have this be a whole like Jacob monologue. Just take me out entirely. Because I'm a dum-dum who hates everybody. But so does Angie, so. Yeah, and then, like, her boyfriend says, I'm moving away. She's like, okay, cool, because I was going to college, so bye. She doesn't really get upset about it, and then...
Well, why should she? Like, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
Who cares?
But the one thing that, like, pissed me off was she's like, she was getting on the train, getting ready to go to college, and she's like, oh, there's Jack. I was expecting him. He didn't say he was going to come, but I knew he would. Like, oh, you fucking asshole. Can't you just say, like, I liked him, I will miss him, have some emotions? But no, she has none. Sociopath.
Right. They, like, had their final evening together, and then, like, he sees her off at the railway station. And, yeah, you're right. It doesn't really have... She doesn't really seem... I mean... I feel like the way that it's portrayed in the novel is she just basically is off to her next adventure, which is fine. Like, I mean, I feel like that's probably a good way to be like, well, fuck this town. I'm going to college.
I'm just going to read it. So Jack stood silent. Bye, Jack, I said to him. I'm going to make it sound a lot more flip than it really is supposed to be.
Perfect. Do it.
Bye, Jack, I said to him. Goodbye, Angie. Be good, he answered, and only for a moment his hand was on mine. And then the mom says something, blah, blah, blah. No, I thought, I won't have to worry about anything. And I looked back out of the train window to wave to them and saw Jack in the half-light of the morning, standing with his hands jammed in his pockets and his basketball sweater knotted loosely around his neck. I won't have to worry about anything at all. Like, oh! That was an asshole thing to say, Angie. Like, that is what you say about your first love. And then, later she's like, oh, I know nothing will be quite as wonderful as that 17th summer. But like, really? Really? That's what you say? I don't have to worry about anything anymore. Because that guy's out of my life. Fuck that shit. What?
Like I said, that I think that this book is, the writing is generally pretty good. The last sentence, I hate it so much.
Oh, and it ended with an exclamation point, of course, because...
Yes.
Of course.
Right. And now I knew suddenly that it could come and could come forever.
But there's no sex.
That reminds me, I want to ask you about something. Anyway, back to this. Slipping by in the breath of a moment, and yet never again would there ever be anything quite as wonderful as that 17th summer!
Exclamation point, exclamation point. This summer, summer, summer.
It reminded me of in high school we learned that was something that was like the 5-point argument or essay or something, which was like state the thing that you want to prove, produce evidence, produce a counter argument, then synthesis, and then restate the and this was just like thesis statement. 17th summer, people. Let's give a big hand for the 17th summer of my life.
If you weren't aware, I was 17.
Now, speaking of us having dirty minds, I wanted to ask you about something.
Oh, God. Where is this going to go? Yes.
So after their second date, which goes really bad, they go to Pete's, which is like the place where you go to make a reputation for yourself, apparently, as a teenage girl in Fond du Lac. And like, she doesn't say much, and she's awkward, and she thinks she's really boring.
Because she is.
Yeah.
She is not wrong.
And then she goes home, but then she remembers that there was this moment at the end of the date where like they went out, I forget, by the lake or something. They just went outside Pete's and they had kind of a moment together.
Okay.
And she says, that evening at Pete's had left me with a cautious soreness, half in my mind and half in my heart. And yet, out in the garden, I realized that some of the strange feeling of the first night still lingered. But I couldn't tell, really. It was all still so puzzling and so new. And the night breeze blew till the thin silk of my slip licked against my legs, cool and clean. Beside the garden path was a rose vine clinging to a rough lattice support, the tender trailers tied with bits of string. The heavy-headed red roses looked black in the darkness, their perfume floating upward, bewitching the air. Over the whole garden, the crickets sang with a steady, rhythmic cheeping, keeping time to the music of the night. The air was soft and warm, with the smell of damp earth and the lush darkness of summer. Somewhere, off where the lights were bright and the night was moving, I heard a car's brakes squeak. The echo waited a moment, and then all was still. One thought in my mind sang a beating refrain with the crickets. In just a few minutes, Jack will be here. Far up in the darkness was a thin yellow arc of moon, turned over on its back. And the night sky was faintly stardusted. Something deep within me stirred, and a throbbing warmth surged through my whole body until the very tips of my fingers tingled.
Why was she doing this outside?
Well, she has like 3 sisters and her parents.
That's what the bathroom is for, then. Jesus Christ, Angie.
Maybe he doesn't have a lock. Yeah, anyway, well, I guess you're picking up on what I'm putting down here.
I most certainly am. Holy shit, Angie. Don't jack off outside.
Let me just tell you how this passage ends. I'll skip forward a bit. If I had heard of any other girls doing it, I would probably think the same thing you will think. But, well, I did it, and I wish I could make you understand. Totally understand, Angie. Don't worry about it.
We're good, Angie. We're good.
Just hearing them crickets.
I know. I'll never look at crickets the same. So, yeah, we read a book.
Yeah. I think that about wraps it up for 17th Summer by Maureen Daly, published in 1942.
If you want to read the very first YA book, go for it. If you want to read a good book, don't bother.
If you want to get a taste then and enjoy reading things in Comic Sans, then read 16, her previous short story. Very good. So I don't know if you remember what book we're going to be covering next. It is Akata Witch.
Oh, yeah, I'm really excited about this.
By Nnedi Okorafor.
Yeah, I'm super friggin' stoked about this book. I just finished reading a witch book, so now I'm really excited for another witch book.
Yeah. Hayden of the They See Me Rollin podcast wrote us a song to convince us to do this book.
I mean, pretty much anything would have convinced me, but the song definitely puts it over the top.
Yeah, it was great. So that's what we'll do next. So we're a member of the Ear Trumpet Audio Network, as is They See Me Rollin, the podcast I just mentioned, which is a Dungeons and Dragons podcast that I listen to and enjoy very much.
Because it's friggin' awesome.
Anyway, you can visit eartrumpetaudio.com for all your podcast needs and to see the various podcasts on the network. And you can follow it on Twitter or on Facebook at Ear Trumpet Audio. I feel like we normally say a bunch more things on the back end here, but I feel like 17th Summer has kind of tuckered us out.
Oh my God, did it ever. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad that, as someone who really likes YA, I can see like this is where the genre started. It wasn't the canon coming of age book. This is really YA as we know YA. So I'm like, okay, for that reason, I'm glad I read it. But it was also a complete shit show, and I wish I hadn't. That's my review of the book. You can leave that in if you want.
I will. It seems like I appreciated it more than you did, but still not to the point where I would actively recommend anyone else to read it.
No, I mean, I appreciate it for what it is, but I don't think it was good.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, we read other books where people are kind of lame or maybe even awful, but there's something that happens where they're like, oh, I don't have to be this way. Instead of, everything in this book seems to happen to her. She doesn't affect the world in any way, shape, or form. She could literally disappear off the face of the planet and nobody would be changed because of her. And that's really sad when you think about someone who could literally just disappear and nothing would be different.
Yeah.
Jack would find a different girlfriend, no big deal. If she disappeared one day, he'd go out with whatever her name is, June or whatever.
Jane Rady.
Jane Rady. He'd go out with Jane again, no big deal. There's nothing about Angie that she does to impact anything. She is nothing, and that sucks. And it's hard to read a book where somebody is so nothing. What else do we need to do?
We need to say goodbye to the listeners.
Okay. Goodbye, listeners.
Goodbye, listeners.
Have a nice life.
Yes, we hope you enjoyed us talking about this book. And thank you, Carrie, as always. I love to talk to you.
I love to talk to you. And if anybody here has not voted yet, please do so. I'm sure this episode will come out before voting is over. So please, if you can early vote, please do so. Otherwise, go out on election day. Thank you. Bye.
Seconded.
For the love of God, vote.
Yeah. So talk to you next time.
I love you like crazy.
I love you like crazy too.
Oh, Jake, I think you're the coolest. You got me to reread the Golden Compass. You taught me about the surprisingly
dense amount of literature there is out there about Amish teens falling in love.
Really?
I want to guest on your podcast one day. I think that'd be cool. I'd talk about something cool like The Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor, which you should really listen to, but I think I've already recommended it to you. Oh, you frequently like my posts on Twitter, and I like yours as well. So hey, Jake, this is just to say that I really love you like crazy.
Whoa, that was a sweet chord change.
That was tender.
beautiful.
That was loving. It was beautiful.
It was.
It was beautiful. I've
No
got
one
a tear
writes a
rolling
love
down
song
my
like
cheek.
Hayden.
EarTrumpetAudio.com.
Ideas and entertainment.
Loud and clear.
I love being a dork.
Me too. It's good.